Okay, well, we are at the Motley Bauhaus, and I'm with Dr. James Moran, criminologist and leading mind in the darknet, and we've obviously got Jason Cavanagh. Now, we've met through the actor sort of world,
that's right,
but you're also an artist. Can you first tell me about Motley Bauhaus and what it stands for and where you got your inspiration from?
Yeah, sure. It happened while I was overseas, which is coincidence because that's when the idea for the hour came about as well.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it was by looking at some of the art spaces that exist in Europe.
Yeah.
And it feels like when you're over there, for me, that you're kind of looking into the future of what art could be if it's kind of embraced by society, which is what gave me the idea for the hour, which was a kind of inclusive space that people could just do anything in. With the Motley Bauhaus, I'd noticed that the art spaces had shifted on a little bit more, and they had a bit more of a commercial focus, which in Australia I think tends to be a dirty word when it comes to the independent art scene.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be, because that's how artists are going to create sustainable careers if they have just a little bit more of a commercial focus, and it doesn't have to affect their art much or at all. They just have to have an idea of how to best market themselves. And so I had this idea of creating a space that did that gave a platform for artists to reach a more mainstream or a wider audience. So this area, Fitzroy North, is kind of, if you were putting it on a Venn diagram of people who care about art and people who have money, I think Fitzroy North fits in that very slim wedge.
We have the resources and the interest.
Yeah, that's right. So it's a good spot. It's a good spot for it, and so it's about coming in at both sides, because I think the artists have to do the heavy lifting themselves in order to get their work out there. But it is also about providing a space where people can actually access that world, because the independent art scene, if you're not in it, I've been told, can feel very kind of like a closed community. It's wonderful. You get, like, just last night we had an event on here called Birdoir.
What's it called?
Birdoir.
Birdoir.
It was a fundraiser for a show that they're doing where it's like a cabaret show full of bird human hybrids. And amazing kind of event. There was costumes and there was craft activities and performances happening all through the space, and in the theatre we had DJs and stuff like that. And just walking through the space as everyone was getting ready and people were putting on all their glamorous makeup and feathers and stuff like that.
We should have been here.
It was really fun. I felt like Robin Williams in the birdcage, that scene at the start where he's walking through and everyone's kind of getting ready for the show and stuff like that. There's a real kind of magic seeing that behind the scenes thing, which is actually what part of the ethos of the space is to try and let people see the behind the scenes. That's why there's glass walls on the studios and on the podcasting booth, and I try and encourage shows that bring people into the making process, so that so people get more kind of invested in the work that gets put on.
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, that was how, and through me, how we ended up here was walking home drunk one night and seeing an artist I didn't know was you at the time, sitting on the floor here doing one of those big place sketches. So
while he was watching Rick and Morty or something?
You were watching something on the computer up there.
Or something like that.
Yeah, but that was a fascinating thing. Just as a resident, that was it was fascinating. Sort of look through the window, literally,
like a voyeur into an artist's world.
Yeah, and it felt very voyeuristic, which didn't stop me. Which says more about me than it does about you. But the fact that it also seemed to invite that. I didn't feel like I was peering into someone's private space. It would seem to be constructed in such a way as to encourage that.
Yeah, very much so. It was twofold. This is where I had the space to actually do it, but I also deliberately opened the window so that people could see it, because I do think it's nice. It's nice for people to see how the art gets made, and a perfect kind of I made a sale that night from doing that.
Yeah,
Is
so
that right?
guerrilla
Yeah.
marketing, right?
Yeah. Why are you choosing art as a medium? How did you come to become an artist, and do you have a focus on either the acting or the painting, or did they all sort of merge into it?
I don't know. I was just always drawn to it. My dad. I come from a really sporting family. My dad was a footballer, and he never had he was like in the second reserve or something. My sister plays for the WNBL.
Is that right?
We used to, now she coaches.
Yeah.
My mum is a mad Richmond supporter. My whole family is.
Okay.
And Dad, God bless him, pushed and tried. Dad really pushed me to get into football or cricket or tennis or soccer or any sport. And they love telling the story about the day that was it the SCG or MCG? I can't remember. I was playing in the little leagues there. You know how they have the halftime game.
Yeah.
And I refused to do anything. I stood on the field. And I just stood there, and the ball came and bounced at my feet, and everyone started tackling around me. I was just standing there like that. And Dad was in the stand. I didn't see this obviously, but he was like, "No." And I think that was when he realised it was probably, I was pretty stubborn. But art, it just always appealed to me. So visual art. I was drawing since I was a toddler, and the acting, I was pushed into it. Well, guided into it by my mum and my teachers, because I was not into sport, and we moved to Melbourne. I was a very shy kid, so they did that. So they pushed me into theatre so that I could meet some people. And then when they didn't expect me to take to it, but I remember, I will always remember their face when I walked off, when they first saw me on stage, which was their first kind of show that I magically got a part in.
Yeah. Not because
they were stunned.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, like open mouth, stunned. Where did that come from? Because I was a very quiet kid.
The creation of this space, the way in which you perform, all of that, it seems to hold true that there's something deep inside of you that you want the world to hear you express. Can you pinpoint what that potentially is? Sorry, I didn't mean to take it away from that.
No, not really. Again, with my psychologist, we were talking about accessing emotion, and I posed the question to him: if you can purge it on stage, if you bottle up your emotions and not let them affect you in your daily life, if you have this, as an artist, we have this tap that whenever you need it, if you've got it bottled up, it's there. You can just turn the tap on a little bit. I need to feel really emotional right now, so I'll just access that deep well of hatred and suffering that I've got inside of me, and I'll just turn that on a bit and then turn it off again. Whether that's, if you can successfully do that, whether that's healthy. I don't know where we got with that discussion, but I think it's helpful.
Yeah.
It's an increasingly controversial thing to say. I've had so many arguments about it, but I think it is healthy. Not healthy, sorry. It's deeply unhealthy. But I think it's useful for an artist to not be completely mentally stable.
Right, it's useful.
Useful.
Even though it's unhealthy
Yeah.
for the person to be unhealthy.
Yeah.
Mentally.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's not to say that you can't be mentally stable and a good artist. artist.
Oh, can you be an
Just
interesting
very
one though?
few examples of it.
Yeah, where does the interest come from? I mean, there's always something a little bit, isn't... I can't... The only reason I say it is I can't think of an example of an artist who doesn't seem to be...
tormented in some way.
Yeah. There's some of the fascination comes from watching something that, if it's someone who's completely well put together, you know, why would they be doing what they're doing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's so much cognitive dissonance involved in just existing, and you have to ignore a great deal of suffering that allows us to live this very privileged life that we live. As soon as you start to kind of look at it directly, I don't think you cannot be a bit fucked up with that.
So, going to a psychologist, doing all of this art over the last decade, do you feel like you are a much more refined person now?
I feel in a much healthier place now.
You do?
I do.
Right. So...
so probably my art's going to start suffering.
Yeah. Well, this is where you can nurture other artists.
Exactly. I'll just make sure I'm in the picture. Yeah, look, I think my personal view on that is that I think artists need to just get on with it. There's a lot of energy spent kind of bemoaning the fact that there's no audience, there's no attention, there's no funding, which are all very real concerns and very real issues, but they're not going to change by just wanting them to change, and a lot of it probably won't change at all. So you can choose to feel bad about it, moan, or you can choose to just get on and try and get on any way you can to keep doing your art. And I think personally that the way to do that is to create a market by reaching out to the local community and trying to make people more invested in it. It's an easy thing to do when there's a community that already feel kind of connected to it as the local area, as North Fitzroy is. But then start with that and then grow from there. Next.
How do you feel about hearing that as a criminologist and a patron of the arts? Do you think is there anything more that can be done about that?
Yeah, I guess it's. I think Jason's probably right in terms of what the artists can do. You know, the artists, let's go and lead interesting lives and make interesting art. I think there's definitely more that other people can do. But I think people. And actually, I'm speaking from my own experience here, and this is as someone who, I'm probably not one of the hardest people to move, but I didn't really find visual art particularly accessible. Music was one thing. Music just did things to me. Whereas visual art, I sort of thought I needed a degree in art before I could appreciate it or comment on it or whatever. And I think the fact that this place is accessible and you're also accessible helps bust down that sort of stereotype is like it's a high art and we're not interested in the hoi polloi, sort of coming in and enjoying it. But I think more broadly in terms of policymakers and planners and I was amazed to hear your local NIMBYs. I don't want an art space in my backyard. Well, I mean that's not that I'm a fan of gentrification, but if you want to gentrify an area, put some art spaces in it. And because the artists will move in, and then the designers will move in, and then then you've got then it's not just a dangerous place to live, it's an edgy place to live. And then it's suddenly got that cachet. So I think for people who are interested in urban rejuvenation and doing something with these spaces, you don't put a 7-Eleven in, you don't do a Peter Monty's expansion, you build a Motley Bauhaus.
Look, I've got a really kind of tangible example of exactly what we're talking about. It's just from the last 2 weekends. So I mentioned Bourgeois earlier. We had turned up last week. Turned up to that event. We had about the same amount of people as turned up to an event the week previous.
Is that with the red wigs?
Yeah, with the red wigs.
What was that? Because I walked past. I was going to come in and then I'm like, I don't have a red wig. All right, I'm excluded.
When was this? Yesterday?
No, it was the other week.
No, someone just booked the venue just to hold their to hold their birthday.
Right. Yeah.
Because they wanted some performance elements to it, and it kind of space suited them. So they were a sort of artsy crowd, but mostly it was just there because it was a 30th birthday. And then, but last night was very much an arts crowd. There was arts activities and events and stuff happening. The alcohol sales from the night that we had the birthday party there were 6 times larger than the alcohol sales that we had last night. Because people were engaged in the arts and they weren't standing there. They weren't standing there drinking. I mean, that's a real easy example of how arts kind of gives people something to do that isn't just getting drunk.
Shit. That is a profound fucking response. What do you think of that, criminologist?
Well, that's well documented. Well, this actually it came up in the lockout debate laws.
Well, you're the antithesis of that, though. Being an alcoholic.
Well, hang on, we're on camera.
No, sorry.
Well, it's been studied in terms of the effects of live music and even sport, even a violent sport like boxing. If you have that going on in an entertainment venue, a licensed one, it will reduce the amount of violence in that venue because people are engaged. Absolutely. People become antisocial when they're put in an antisocial environment, and you give them stimuli, you give them something to talk about, something to focus on that isn't just sitting around getting shit-faced, which is the great Australian tradition. Then it doesn't surprise me at all.
Okay, what is the web?
www.themotley.com.au.
Cool, sweet. Well, thank you very much for playing, and this has been fascinating to talk to both you and the arts, really. How long is this place going till before you have to shut it down?
Who knows? Peter Monty's have just released their latest set of plans. Have you looked at them yet? No? I haven't either yet. Who knows? It took me a year, and I had 6 objections. Okay. They had just over 1,000, so I don't know.
Right. They have.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, they did. Their last plans did.
Damn you, Petey. All right, man. Well, thank you very much for sitting in your own place. This has been awesome.
Thank you.
Cool.
I get high off your love, don't know how to behave. Yeah. I want some of your bad sugar, sugar girl. I want some of your sugar girl. I want some of your bad sugar, sugar girl. I want some of your sugar girl. Oh, sugar, when you're close to me, you love me right down to my knees. And whenever you let me hit it high, sweet like honey when it comes to me. Sweet as caramel with those cocoa eyes. You ain't got a big sister by the name of chocolate pie. Brown sugar, babe, I get high off your love, don't know how to behave. Yeah. I want some of your brown sugar, sugar girl. I want some of your sugar girl. I want some of your brown sugar, sugar girl. Yeah.